Today we're going to be looking at building on what we learned in reports previously and looking at financial reports. And I'm going to be moving between the finance area and the area with the actual finance reports in it, so that we explain how it all works. So first of all, obviously the main idea of doing all of this stuff here is that you can pay staff X and hopefully charge your clients 3X and make enough money to be able to pay for your lighting, feed everybody, and so on. So that means that the transactions and all the hard work that you do to put information into the system, people's hourly rates, their start times, what reports they've done, what they're supposed to do, whether they turned up, whether they did it, and so on, should end up in payroll, but also it should end up in your sales invoice processing for the clients as well. And at the very least, even if you don't use our full payroll system, expenses system, and sales invoice processing, at the very least, you should be able to report on those figures, as everybody I know on our customer base does, to be able to check the figures and to be able to substantiate figures to be able to give to the customer. So today we're looking at how those figures are worked out, and we're also looking at the sorts of reports that you can do if a customer says, I think you've charged me for 18, but I think you only did 15 or whatever, the usual kind of stuff that happens. So the agenda is going to be mostly demo today, but we're going to be running through pay rates, payroll. I'm going to keep expenses fairly short. I think there's one customer on that uses expenses on the list, unless I'm very much mistaken, but I'll just introduce it. Then client charges and invoicing, and obviously the whole area of approving attendance and submitting payroll, much of which is done with Report Builder. I'm then going to review this stuff and mix in both Report Builder and the screens that you see for your finances, and so today and Wednesday, the 15th, are going to be a lot of kind of review, and there's some overlap because I know some of these things are more complex. But at the beginning of it all, there's a fairly simple concept. You know what rate somebody is being paid, and within the system you tick off whether or not they've done it, and that creates the payroll. If you pay by the hour, you know the hourly rate they're being paid, you know when they started, when they finished, and so again it creates the payroll for that person and perhaps hundreds of other people you have on your payroll. And so you've got all of the atomic data that you can drill down into, or you can just look at the great big horrible number of £150,000 that you're paying all of your staff this week. Likewise, if you know the client rate, so let's say you're charging the staff, you're paying the staff £10 an hour, for example, and you're charging your clients £300 a day, then the invoices can be worked out together with various add-ons and bonuses and breakages and extra taxi fares and things like that they've agreed to, and any obviously discounts that you put on there and so on. So that's the agenda. I'm going to leave that up there. Let's go and look at the demo system to be able to generate some of this information. So I'm going to assume that most of you are, if you're looking at this, you're finance folks or super users. So I'm going to start in the back end, and we're going to review this when we do the super user stuff. But in Dropdowns Admin, there are areas, I'll just press on there, where you can have a look at the rates that you're charging people out. So if I take any rate, it could be a cleaner or SIA security guard. Let's just take a merchandiser. So on a merchandiser, you've got an £11 hourly rate. Now you can change that when you create your job. You can even have performance related payments. You can even have some jobs where the merchandisers get paid £13 an hour and some jobs when they get paid £9 an hour. But the idea is you put a normal rate in there, and that way you've at least got some less typing to do. You could then have a client daily rate. You know, it could be a fixed rate of £55 for every time you do this job, or it could be £200 per day, or it could be £22 per hour and you work it out per hour. There would be a sales nominal code for both, and in all of your businesses you'll have a nominal code. Without that nominal code, you can't export the information into your Sage or your accounting system. So you have to have a nominal code, and everybody on on the call now that I can see has all of those nominal codes, and we've got those plugged into the system. To be able to change your nominal codes, by the way, you can see this is all pretty clear. You've got your hourly rate for each one. You've got your client hourly rate or daily rate. For each one, there will also be a VAT rate. So most of this labor, you'll be charging your clients VAT. For a large number of the staff, they're not self-employed and they won't be charged VAT. We've assumed when we make people self-employed that if they do, if they are charging you VAT, we put their VAT number in their user admin, and that assumes that it's at T20, 20%. Now you'll notice here that there's a sales nominal code, and I haven't got any in my drop-down list. To put your sales nominal codes in here, you go to nominal code admin, which is normally here, and you just create them. So if I just create a new one, which is, I'm going to go with a typical British one, which would be sales. And you might have 4001 is field sales, 4002 is cleaning, 4003 or 4. You might increase them by 10 at a time. So you might say 420 as a steward, 450 as a SIA badge holder or whatever. So I'd save that, and then I might have 5,000 costs. I'm not sure if it is 5,000, but it's just an example, or 6,000 or whatever. So now those, whoops, if I save those, oh, that's stupid on me, new 4,000 sales and save. So now I've got two nominal codes, and I can use those in my role admin or anywhere else in the system to be able to put nominal codes on things. So 4,000 for sales, 5,000 for costs, and save. And I'd probably do that all the way down here so that all of those had nominal codes in them. So, and the VAT is T20, save, there we go. So now those, please, oh, I need to pick up, clearly pick up name of a, so 5,000 costs. Payroll would be different, of course, in real life. There we go. So now I've got my nominal codes in there as well. Now, I didn't add them before, but and you'll see that will come up. Don't forget also that if you want to report on these things, you will need a customer. And I think somewhere, I think it's My New Shoes or something. If I go to companies, I think it's something like My New Shoes is the name of the customer. Let's go back to the dashboard, find out who the customer is here. The example I'm going to be using is this New Blue Shoes company here. So if we look at the customer name for New Blue Shoes, the customer is, here we are, Just My Shoes. So if I go to those guys, Just My Shoes, here in company, Just My Shoes, then I really need to give these guys a account code. Where is their account code? Source account number, yeah. So they might be JMS 0001 as an account code, as an example, and save. It's also a good idea to make somebody the actual accounts, the invoicing contact. And there's normally some tick boxes here. There aren't on this system, but normally on your systems you'll get a tick box here so that you can make somebody the invoice contact. So going back to the dashboard, you'll recall that for each of these events in the payroll section, because I've made this guy a merchandiser, then in the payroll section, which I've clearly left on a, there we go. In the payroll section, you'll see this guy is in the role of merchandiser, this Alex fella, and you can see in here that his gross pay is 6 hours times 11 quid, which is the amount we put in that that pay amount there, and that's 66 quid he's getting paid for his 6 hours. Now we also have client rates, so I'm paying this guy by client rates. It looks like at the time that we created this fella, he was 0 pay. So if you ever find a mistake like that in your payroll details, just change him backwards to nothing, then make him merchandiser again. You'll probably need to submit that. But if I now go to client rates, Oh, okay. I must have just put the wrong rate in there. Probably, actually, if I went to his roles again, to the actual session details here, and went to roles, I probably neglected to put that role on this event. I probably neglected to put that 22 quid in, which will come back and cause you some amusement whenever we try to create invoices. I don't know if Eden's listening and you could shove a few more of those 22 quids in, that'd be great. Now, obviously I hadn't put the nominal code in here, but if I put that in as costs, you'll have your own nominal codes, of course, and save. Then I would have to make sure that all of those were logged in with every new role I put in as well. So if we go back to the payroll system, I'm just going to reject that approval. And remember, as a payroll admin, I can reject an approval, but I can't take it any further forward. So I'm going to make him nothing, and I'm going to make him a merchandiser, and it should, if I submit, if I save that, actually I don't need to submit it. Look at his client rates. Now his client rate says 132, which is correct. And it looks like I haven't added VAT for this particular customer, but that's my oversight when I was in the roles. So these things are quite easy things to fix, but the best idea is to get them set up straight away at the beginning. So now we have a bunch of shifts where people have turned up, and the first report I'm going to show you is a payroll processing report, and it's one of those one I did earlier situations. So if we go to reports here, what I've done is I've gone to my reports page and I've picked the payroll processing report. Now, many of these reports are either built by Report Builder or they're built by a programmer for speed reasons. I'm just going to maximize this on the screen because it's getting a little bit out of hand on the side there. So this payroll processing report I've brought up here, and you can see I've brought back a date range just here, and if I just bring it back once again and I go for approval, you'll see if I search that there are 2 events within that date range I've been looking at. If I do this and go a bit further back, you'll see there are perhaps more events. Now it looks like a lot of them I approved already in previous sessions. So if we look at this event here, it looks like there's a bunch of things to approve here, and I could just approve those. So I go to actions and approve. So that is now approved for payroll. And the one that I'm going to be looking at in a moment is this one here. Now you'll notice that so from the 23rd through the 28th are unapproved, and from the 31st onwards are unapproved. And I'm going to deal with that in a moment, but I just want to show you the implications of that. So if we go to further payroll processing and we look at the next ones along, so where we're going to actually process the payments, then on here I've only got a few people whose payments have been approved, and they're the ones that I just used as a practice beforehand. So that's the implication that I would only pay Alex Dacre for 3 days if I carried on approving in this way. The idea of being able to part approve is that you can keep on top of payroll during the month or during the week before you actually pay everybody, but also you can unapprove somebody. So if somebody's basically done a good job for 4 days, but there's a dispute about when they turned up or whether they were late, or if there's a dispute about their expenses or something else for the Thursday of that week that they worked, you can take that day out and you can put it in a future payroll. Likewise, you can pay somebody early. And of course, you can split the payroll up into different weeks during the month if you wish, because in the extreme event that you're waiting for a big check from one of your customers. And I would have said 2 years ago, everybody said, we never, ever delay payroll. We always pay people, even if we have to go to an invoice funding company to be able to get the cash in. But during the pandemic, I think people's basically attitude to that changed because they had to delay some payments for cash flow reasons. So this tool allows you to delay some and keep others. So if I go to payment export, obviously, I don't think anything will be in payment export because we haven't approved it yet. We still have time. No, nothing's in there. So with approvals, we're saying these people actually turned up, and I've gone back far enough so that I can see if people have turned up. I might actually go back to June to see if any more turn up, if there's any more events. There we go. And search. No, still just the new blue shoes. So I'm going to break that down, and I'm going to approve it all now so that you can see that come through. But I'm just as an example, on the 26th, I'm not going to approve it, just so that I can show you that in the example when we do payroll and so on. So I now go to actions and approve. And I also go, I'm going to go to payment processing now, search for everything in payment processing. So that will have everything in new blue shoes, including the stuff I had already done on the 28th, I think it was 29th and 30th was the practice I did before I did this training call. And I'm going to go to actions there, and I'm going to basically approve, so validate that payment processing. And now I'm going to payment type, PAYE, actions, yeah, that's all good stuff. So, and search. So a lot of these people, a lot of these people will be PAYE. You can see all of these people are PAYE here. So I need actions and validate payment processing. And off we go. Good. And a lot of those people who are self-employed would come up if we click the self-employed button. So now, what if we wanted to have a look at the actual client rates, or we wanted to look at our total payroll, or we wanted to look at just something that comes up in a management discussion about how much profit we're making or something. So what we can do is we can go to reports admin, and we can create a new report, payroll report. So I'm going to put it in the finance and payroll area. I'm going to say it's a new report. Then you'll recall that this Microsoft bug hides the let's just see if we can get that to come down a little bit here. Maybe I can do this to make it come down. There we go. Right. So I reckon to do this, I need to look through the wizards, but I would say it's probably event with invoice data. Right. So event sessions bookings with invoice data is the one that I'm going to look at. So hopefully these BDUs if you experiment with them, you'll find them more and more. So I'm not going to take only self-employed because I don't have very many people in demo mode for self-employed, but this would be for the people that you're using as subcontractors as opposed to your permanent staff. I am only going to make sure it's people who are at least one person booked on the session. The session's not cancelled. I'm not going to include rejected bookings. Restrict the rates change log to the employee manager as a logged in user. No. The idea of this thing here is you can have specific contracts and specific employees, and some people can only see and approve their own events. So only the events for which you're the employee that's marked up as the account manager for that campaign or project. So you could have Sally running this project, Bill running that project, and they each can't see the other's expenses or the other's pay or whatever. Works rate log exists. Exclude records that have not been invoiced. Confirmed bookings only, very important. And any more, booking has been exported on booking list only. Yeah, so we're only looking for people who have been booked. We're not looking for sites that are empty in this one. So this is finance example report. Now I must not forget later when I go in to spell finance, right? I must not forget later to go in and decide who is allowed to see this report. So I would probably say only administrators and finance. So there's my report ready to go. And I'm just going to, so it looks like it's brought the event date back, and I'm going to obviously, the event, the actual event itself here. There we go. So the event details, I'm probably going to look for the manager and the project name. Now, in addition to that, I will probably look for the client stuff. Now, do we have the client stuff anyway in here? No. So I'm going to get the client name. There you go. And their account number. Now, it could also be you have a different account manager. So one account manager may look after this account, My Blue Shoes or whatever I call it, or Just My Shoes. But in addition, there could be a manager who's on the operations side who's making the thing happen. So now you've got all of the session details, session bookings and staff payroll and so on and so forth. There's also a certain amount of audit data in here. So let's go and have a look at staff payroll. Within here, you can look at the payroll number and the payroll created date of each of the members of staff. But you can also look at the rates log data in here. So you can look at the actual rates that they're booked on and whenever somebody changed those rates. So you can do reports and you can say during a campaign, how many people actually changed the rates and who were they changed by, because that could affect the profitability. In the booking details, you've got the time they turned up, the day rate, the actual time, and so on and so forth. So if we took the hourly rate and we took the start time, the booking type, and I think we've restricted it anyway to only confirmed bookings. Let me have a look. The timesheet adjusted time and the timesheet adjusted timesheet completed total pay as a checker, whether they didn't turn up. Obviously, in the example we haven't got day rates, but you could go and pick day rates. We need the booking end time and the booking start time. And this age at start of session, there are certain rules as to what somebody's minimum pay is, depending on whether they're over, under 18, under 25. Forgive me, I can't keep up with what those rules are, but you know what I'm talking about there. Booking start time. So there's our little report. And if I was to put age in there, I could say if they're under 18, make it go yellow or whatever. I might also just have I got the staff members? No, it'd be good to have the staff member actually. So booking start time, end time, attendee status, somewhere around here we should have the actual staff person's name, role assigned, payroll export ID. That would be the ID of the export when they were actually paid, the cash export. I find that very, very useful for audits. More and more we get called in to help customers with HMRC audits, especially if they've got a mix of self-employed and PAYE, which is one way to lose an awful lot of sleep as a business owner when the HMRC come to ask you to explain that. The basic idea is that people say, here's all my bookings and I always pay the following month, so I'm just going to go on bookings date. But that's not what the HMRC are interested in. They're interested in the actual date that the pay went out. And of course, for that, you need the payroll ID and you need to know the date of that, the actual payroll export ID. That's when the cash went out. So I'm just looking for the booking date range, booking status employee, somewhere around here. I should have the employee name, staff member confirmed. Can anybody see staff? I'm terrible at looking up and down lists. Can anybody see that? Age at staff session, attendee status. Maybe I've already put it in here. Client account number. Now we'll bring it up. We'll bring it up in a moment. I'm sure we can. Role details, adjustments, booking details, staff. Nope, just not coming to me at the moment. Shift staff member confirmed, staff rating. Nope, might be under employee or something. I might need to go and get it out of another table here. Rates log data we don't need. Staff admin contacts. There we go. So now I have a report and I can save that, preview it. And I put quite a lot of restrictions on this. So it doesn't surprise me in the least that not a lot of stuff is coming out. So what I probably need to do is go back into that report and take some of these restrictions off. So got rid of that, got rid of that. At least one person booked on the session. That seems reasonable. Oh, nobody's confirmed. That would do it. So, and work rates log exists. Doesn't matter about that. save, preview. So now if we do this, now some people are coming back, because remember that the confirmed and stuff, we'd have to log in all of those people and press confirm for them. So here are now I've only got 25 here, but you can see there's 346 entries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the I think we've got, what have we got? We should have the New Blue Shoes as an example, and I'm now going to click on that and see how many of those we should get. 39, so I need to go up to 100 here. So what I can do is I can see the start time, the end time here. I think I put total pay in here. That all looks pretty reasonable. And of course I can get the invoice data out as well, so I can get the client charges. So you've got your hour rate, your start time, your finish time, and you can put that into Excel and check that it's all worked out correctly. But I could also obviously put my invoice data in, put it into data, do pivot tables, find my profitability and all kinds of whizzy things. Don't forget you can also do a sum on these. So if I was to say that I wanted a sum at the bottom of total pay, for example, I can go into total pay and I can say that I would like a sum, please. Save that, preview, and then at the bottom of that, if I say New Blue Shoes, so I can now see that, where's my sum gone? Let me just go, maybe I didn't hit save. Probably hit help if I hit save. Sum, yep, that should be fine. Save, preview. Project name, New Blue Shoes. There we go. Well, maybe I picked the wrong field. No, total pay, that's correct. Summary, sum, haha, graph by. So I now save that and preview, and I now have, hopefully, a brand new report which we've never seen before, and I've got my sum there. And of course I can also add to this report the invoice amounts, and then I can see if I've made a profit on it. So as I mentioned, this thing here is very important, as is the nominal code, and I'll show you why. So we've had a look at payroll and reporting on it. I'm now going to jump into invoicing. So, and don't worry if this has gone through quite fast, because we are going to be running through quite a lot of this stuff next week when we go through the whole section on finance and payroll and invoices and so on. So if I go back to the dashboard and I look at this event here, there's various actions along with mass change and things here that are basic finance actions. So one of the things that you can do is you can go to invoices here. So I've already created an invoice and I can show you a preview of it. Unfortunately, at that time, I didn't have any nominal codes. You really need to put the nominal codes in. If you don't have the nominal codes, two things will blight your life. Number one, you'll have a red thing in your face. And number two, perhaps less importantly, you won't be able to export it into your accounting system because it won't know where to put that amount of money. Especially the customer account. You need to have a customer account. So what I would probably do here, because I've added a customer account for Just Shoes, as you saw earlier on in the demo, is I would probably delete this invoice here. So if I look at this here and I say I want to include those sessions which have been invoiced, I can see that on invoice 25-1, in other words, for the event 25, the first invoice, and what I can do is I can delete that there, and I can go and redo it. So now that that's deleted, if I refresh this, now if I filter sessions, including, there's no invoice there, I've deleted it. So what I can do is I can say I want to go back to, let's say, oh, it's already back to, by default it takes you back. So I can say I now want to create an invoice for the whole lot. So I now go to invoice contact, and on invoice contact, I'm basically being asked, by the way, notice these are zeros because they're not included with VAT. See these VAT zeros? We didn't update those. I don't know if Eden, if you're listening, Eden, probably you can't put add it. You'd have to go back in, unapprove them, add the VAT, and so on. It's always a good idea to set it up first of all in the correct admin area. So let's say there's a purchase order and it's just my shoes, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And let's say they put in a deposit of 1,000 before doing the event. This guy, it'll bring up all of the contacts you have at Just My Shoes, and you can pick the guy who's going to have the invoice, and it could be, you know, purchasing at or whatever. It's not necessarily the person for whom you do the campaign who might be in marketing, or the person for whom you do the security who might be at, I don't know, the O2 Arena or whatever. It might be that you invoice AEG, but the stuff's done at O2. So it's quite often a different person altogether. But that's why we say the definition of customer is the person for whom who you're going to actually invoice. So now let's invoice the sessions. We've now got an invoice here that's come up, or you know, all of these things on have been invoiced. So if I unfilter that and filter sessions, there's nothing left to invoice. If I filter them, you can see these are the ones that are invoiced. So you can always go back and have a look at those. So now if I go and have a look at that invoice, I've got the ability to edit that before I create it and print it. So I can do a bunch of things. I can say, I don't want the customer to see all of those ones there. I want those all to be invisible to the customer. So they can all go for whatever reason. Now, in addition, what I can do is I can say, by the way, they have to be 0 to get rid of them. The reason a lot of our customers want to be able to zero out lines is because they may have been asked to supply 100 staff to a football car parking stewarding job, and they supply 110, but they don't charge the customer. They just want to be seen that when they promise 100 staff, they come up with 100 staff, but they know at least 5 or 6 people will drop out. So they need to take that off the invoice. The next thing you can do is you can adjust these things. So it could be that there's 3 there. You can also put in your own nominal code, so you can do that, of course. If I hit save details, then that goes away as a problem. Notice that's gone away as a problem because I've put it on the customer site. You can also add some notes, you know, thank you for your business. And see you at Christmas or whatever. You can also add lines to the invoice. So if you have a nominal code, actually, is that a sales code? Forgive me, I can never remember these things. So it could be 4033, and it could be broken light on stand 55. Our apologies. Or something like that. And then of course you can put unit 1 and you can say minus 100. Oh, you've added the VAT codes. Thank you very much, Eden. Thanks for that. Yeah. So if I now save the details, I'm not sure if they will necessarily. Oh, we've got T20 on some of them, yeah, and there's a few that don't have T20. So I see my colleague has been adding a few of these things now. We'd obviously have to change these ones, these grayed out ones. We would have to go back out, delete this invoice, go back in again and refresh it for obvious reasons. So you can see how I can put adjustments in here, but I can also add another line. Let's say some staff stayed late, so taxis for 3 staff who stayed late. 420. 420 expenses, or I can't remember what expenses is in nominal codes. If somebody else can, I'm sure. You'd probably have to charge some VAT on that. It's public transport. You know, I'm not sure. My accounting is absolutely appalling. Let's say that's 75 quid. Now you can save those details and you can preview your invoice, and you can see I haven't put very much detail in here in terms of address line 1, address line 2 on this company, but if it was there, it would come out. And you can see that in this particular format, thank you for your business comes out somewhere around. There we go. Thank you for your business. With my misspelling, thank you for your business. Thank you for your business. And you can see in this preview that it's ready to print. Now, this particular format would be different for different companies. So we typically will help you to format the invoice that you create for your customers. It works on an invoice per campaign, but if you wanted to do so, I know, for example, Brand, who are on the call, one of the things you wanted to do was an invoice per month for a customer that runs many, many campaigns. And we're looking at being able to do that for you. But it always makes me feel that it's such a shame to have to create an invoice in a separate system when our system will automatically create it at the click of a button and allow you to adjust it. I think the solution that will work for most people, though, if you don't use our invoicing system, is to use Report Builder. So you type out an invoice and it just says, you owe us, you've paid the deposit of £1,000, so you now owe us £2,773, including VAT. So you just type that out as a Word document, but you export a spreadsheet from our system, which is all of the workings. So you've got the best of both worlds. If you don't want to use our system and you prefer to use Microsoft Word or an Excel spreadsheet, you can do that, but you can export all of the data that makes up the invoice for the customer using Report Builder. So unless I'm mistaken, I think I've pretty much hit the agenda. Looked at pay rates and how you can add them. You can add them on the actual event. You can even add a specific pay rate for a person if you want to. We've looked at payroll. We've skipped over expenses, which I will do it as a separate session. We've looked at client charges and we've looked at invoicing. And remember, you don't have to have, just because the person is paid on an hourly rate, it doesn't mean you can't charge the client a daily rate. So you can swap those around. We've also looked at invoicing. We've looked at approving attendance of the staff, and the invoices won't put that staff shift on unless you've approved their attendance. Because obviously, if you've DNS'd them, if they haven't turned up or the work hasn't been done, we assume that you as a customer would not want to charge that client. You'd have to do it by creating a report on our system and ignoring whether or not, putting in the pay rate, but ignoring whether or not that person had turned up. And that's your business if you want to do that. Or if that's part of it might be part of the agreement with the company that you've agreed that 9 people out of 10 will turn up and 1 might not, and they're agreed to pay for that. So that's approving attendance, and then submitting and approving payroll. Most of you will be quite familiar with. So thank you very much again for your time.